Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. This is something that actually we haven't spoken about in a while because it hasn't been in the news in a while, and I will probably tell you exactly why I think it also wasn't in the news for as long as it possibly could have been. We normally, nearly daily, hear a lot about Bitcoin, especially after the release, the final halvings of the Bitcoin ETFs, which the market was waiting for a decade. It was literally 10 years that the market was waiting for these Bitcoin ETFs to launch. The discussion has lightly shifted, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks, specifically because there is now another coin, the number 2 coin, Ethereum, has a lot on its plate over the course of the next couple of weeks. What typically tends to happen, like every single market cycle, is that the focus mainly remains on Bitcoin until we get near the halving. The reason why things begin to happen as we get near the halving is because the prices go up. And typically when the prices go up for Bitcoin, it tends to mean that the rest of the cryptocurrency market is also going to go up as well. So this is normally the time period. I mentioned this in December, and I also mentioned this in the beginning of January. The end of February, beginning of March was going to be the time frame where we started to hear more about altcoins because they want to basically ride the Bitcoin price momentum. I don't know a nicer way of saying it. You're going to start hearing about a lot of projects that you haven't heard about in about a good year and a half who are going to be releasing updates, upgrades, new forms of blockchains, layer 2 solutions, and all these other things to once again ride the momentum of the Bitcoin halving. If we are having discussions about Bitcoin hitting 100,000, 150, 200 something thousand, all the way up to the illustrious $600,000 by 2025, that's a gigantic if. But the idea is, if Bitcoin goes to 200K or 400K or 600K, the altcoins and Ethereum would do exceptionally well as well. Some of the craziest numbers that we've gotten thus far for Ethereum have ranged anywhere between like $14,000 to $17,000 by 2025. They seem relatively believable. But now a lot of people, at least at the time of me making this video, in conjunction with everything that's happening over the course of 2024, have become more bullish on Ethereum in the short, long term. That is to say, in the next like year and a half or so, simply because of everything that's happening. On the back of the news that we finally had received or would be having 11 Bitcoin ETFs that were all, I think it was like the 11th of January or the 12th of January, somewhere around there when we got all of them. Nearly a day later, a literal day later, for some reason, no one was content with all the Bitcoin ETF news, and the discussion then went to the idea of Ethereum ETFs. And would we have an Ethereum ETF? And I believe, I think there are 3 or 4 companies who have already filed for a spot Ethereum ETF. So the same exact thing, they would also be buying Ether. And a lot of the bullishness, I don't know why this is bullishness, comes from the fact that even though Grayscale has an Ethereum trust, so for those of you who weren't here, when we got the Bitcoin ETFs and Bitcoin's price was falling, it was because Grayscale, people who had money in the Grayscale trust were selling off their shares of the Grayscale trust to buy the Grayscale and other ETFs, and therefore the price went down. But that was because Grayscale had an egregious amount of Bitcoin, and they have far less Ethereum than they do the actual Bitcoin. So any kind of sell-off that would happen has probably already occurred over the course of the last month and a half when Bitcoin was also being sold off. And or if it did happen, if we get Ethereum ETFs, the sell-off would be far, far less, like 1/80th of what we saw, and therefore there would not be a large pullback in the market. So there's a lot of analysts and a lot of stuff going around right now that are calling for short term for Ethereum to also be near and or pass by its previous all-time high. Ethereum's previous all-time high was 4,800. I believe that's what it was. There are a lot of calls right now for Ethereum to surpass $4,000 by the beginning or like the first week of March. This is significant in that, if you paid attention to the other videos, a large number of analysts. So I'll give it to you this way. The way that it tends to work out is as we get closer to the Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin's price goes up in anticipation of the supply being created, getting cut in half. It just seems kind of logical or illogical. You would assume that people would be buying a year before, knowing that this is going to happen. But for some reason, the last month, the last 5 weeks, everyone goes into a complete frenzy and starts buying as much as they possibly can. The price ends up going up. The same exact thing is expected to happen for Ethereum, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea is there's just so much going on. I'm trying to put everything into one video, but it's literally 9,000 things that are going on at the exact same time. With Ethereum, or rather, I'll give it to you this way. It's expected that by the time we get to the halving, that Bitcoin would have skyrocketed in price and that we'd be above the previous all-time high just based off of the movements of the market. The idea is that Ethereum, as it is closer to $4,000 than it was before, by the time we get to first week of March, we will also hit 4,000. And then therefore, by the time the next 5 weeks go on, we would be able to only go up by $800, therefore surpassing the previous all-time high, which is also still quite unorthodox. For those of you, if this is your first rodeo, we normally do not pass by the previous all-time high until 4 to 5 months, if not more, of the halving. So the fact that all of this is happening very early just shows the amount of interest in the market. And this is why we're getting these crazy price predictions for Bitcoin, because if we can hit the previous all-time high in April or May, what have you, as opposed to December or next January, then therefore the price has a lot more movement within it. One of the major things, and I don't think that it's not interesting or that it's not going to cause some type of a miraculous movement for the coin's price. Ethereum has an upgrade coming up called, and I hate to say this out loud, it's called Dencun. I don't know why. It sounds nasty to me. It is short for Deneb and also Cancun. For some reason, Ethereum has a lot of cities and places and state upgrade names. They've had Berlin. I think there was a Paris at some point. They always have names that they kind of throw out there, plus Deneb. And they say that this is supposed to increase scalability and efficiency within the chain. We've heard this before from the Ethereum team. Previously, Ethereum could only do between 10 to 15 transactions per second. Apparently, since one of the later upgrades at the end of last year, I think Ethereum can maximum do now 119 transactions, even though many times on chain it shows that it's roughly around 55 to 60 transactions per second, which is still great, but it's still not hundreds and or thousands. This is meant to be done by another upgrade called proto-dank sharding. I was going to say you can't make it up, but people have made up these really weird names. And the idea is you'd be able to kind of batch transactions together inside of one box to kind of make everything go a lot quicker. The hype around this is massive. The idea is that from the proto-dank sharding and Dencun, that you'd essentially be able to have a near industrial grade Ethereum, which is also has other things inside of it, which are also going to help layer 2 solutions inside of Ethereum as well, to therefore make all the transactions per second so quick that Ethereum just has to be the number one coin. That kind of thing is going on. The other thing is the spot ETF. We are expecting sometime in the middle of March. I think it says, is it March 23rd? There's no date on this one. I believe it's March 23rd. I want to say March 23rd. And or May. These are the time frames for the either yay or the nay of the spot Ethereum ETFs. I believe that BlackRock is one of the applicants as well, and people are like, well, they're BlackRock. They're probably going to get their ETF. If there is an Ethereum ETF and it does end up going through and multiple companies get it at the exact same time, we're probably going to see the exact same momentum that we saw from the Bitcoin spot ETFs. And therefore, Ethereum, high number, yada, 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 you kind of get it. The expectations that I've seen, some of the, I want to say more realistic numbers for Ethereum by the end of this year, if there are spot Ethereum ETFs and we see the same amount of hoarding that's been going on from very few companies when it comes to Bitcoin, but this time for Ethereum, are anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 over the course of this year. I think it's going to be, I've said it many times, I think it's going to be a very fascinating year just based off of where people are expecting prices to go and where they actually do end up going. I don't think for this year that anyone has kind of been like stratosphere wise, like no one's saying a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 Bitcoin sometime this year. I think 100K is completely logical, especially if, once again, if you're your first time here, you will see that during and after the halving, people are going to go completely bananas for Bitcoin. And it's going to be like, whoa, why didn't people do this before? Probably the exact same thing is going to end up happening for Ethereum, just based off of complete logic. If Bitcoin's going up, we've also seen before in the past, the altcoins go up. But the specific interesting part is that Ethereum is tied to every other altcoin as well. So historically, every time that Ethereum does well in price, altcoins do extremely well as well. So if Bitcoin's doing well and Ethereum's doing well, they'll be dragging up every single altcoin with them as well. Staking is also, for some reason, gotten back into the discussion with the last update that we had, last major update that we had for Ethereum when it came to proof of stake. And we went from proof of work with the thousands of machines to being able to mine Ethereum on your own computer. If you have 32 Ether and or if you join a staking pool, has for some reason been a fascinating topic in the last couple of weeks. The amount of people staking their Ether has also increased, I believe, by 25% over the course of the last couple of months, which is also quite interesting because people assumed that with the staking queue standing in line to be able to stake your Ether and or unstake your Ether, that it would have become less popular. But if you haven't seen other videos on this channel before, one of the main key points or reason why people really like Ethereum is because of the passive income. Everyone wants passive income. No one wants to really do anything for their income. So the idea of being able to have a coin or multiple different coins that you can have in your portfolio that you put into a staking pool or onto a cryptocurrency exchange. And I believe staking pays out bi-weekly and or monthly for many of these coins. Who doesn't want a free paycheck at the end of every month for having done absolutely nothing? But the amount of coins being staked has also, of course, increased. The amount of Ethereum, therefore, that's actually circulating, that is liquid for a lot of people, has also decreased. The amount of activity on the network that we've seen over the course of the last couple of months as well has maintained Ethereum being deflationary. You'll see and hear a lot of times from like hyper Bitcoin maximalists. They'll make sure to note that Ethereum's, that Bitcoin supply is capped at 21 million. Got it. But then they'll also have a chart that shows Ethereum supply infinity. They really love to do this because they're like, Ethereum, so whatever. The actual truth is that Ethereum is designed to kind of continuously create value, literally creating new coins, while at the same time, as basic activity is happening on the network, the coins are actually burned, and the burn is more than the actual creation of the coins, and therefore it is deflationary and will continue to be so as long as people are using the actual network. They also have a scheduled, unscheduled halving as well for Ethereum. Like it's not always the exact same amount of Ether being produced. It goes down every couple of years. Similar to Bitcoin, it's more of a network consensus kind of thing of how much it should go down and then when, as opposed to the timed every 4-year ones that we see for Bitcoin. And a lot of people remain hyper bullish because if Ethereum, if it's only been around for 8 years, since 2015, 2016, 8-9 years, somewhere around there. And we've already seen like multiple halvings for Ethereum supply and also the burn rate going up and therefore the amount of coins actually in the ecosystem going down and also the liquid coins not really being there as more people continue to stake because they want to have the passive income. This will only fuel the coin's price to go a lot higher. I realistically, if I can give you a number, I would expect between a $12,000 to $15,000 Bitcoin. Don't write that in stone, but it just seems completely logical. It's based off of a lot of times, depending on where you look at where a coin's price has been to where it kind of goes during the course of a bull run, lightly discounting 2021 and 2020 because, the world was, we tend to see anywhere from a 4 to a 10x from the previous price. That is to say, Bitcoin's price was $1,000 before, then it went up to $20,000. Ethereum's price was $8 and it went to $1,200. If you do the 2020 to 2021, you get an Ethereum price of, it was $1,200 all-time high to $4,800. That's a 4x, and that was based off of the fear of the market that we kept on having. If you remember those videos back then, where everyone thought we were going into a recession, depression, oppression. I don't know what other word is supposed to fit inside there. So even if you just did a 4x for Ethereum's previous all-time high, you would get to a $12,000 to $15,000 coin. But we're also in a very different time now. We're also in a very different situation where it's not just us who are buying these coins. The last couple of, all of them, bull runs that we've seen were fueled by retail investors, everyday normal people. They were not specifically done by institutions. We have never had a situation before where we had one company buy up, that is BlackRock, over 100,000 Bitcoin over the course of 4 weeks. So we can only assume the same exact thing would also happen to Ethereum should we have these spot ETFs. But the staking is becoming like really big right now. A lot of people are like pushing kind of hard, making sure that they acquire as much Ether as possible to be able to stake. And the more Ether you have, the more Ether you make, and therefore the extra passive income. There's a lot happening in this market at the exact same time. It is very fascinating to see all these altcoins releasing their news all over again, talking about exactly what updates and upgrades that they're going to have. And Ethereum is once again at the forefront just because it's Ethereum. It's been the number 2 coin for as long as we can remember. So it'll be we're not that far from the halving. We're really not that far off anymore. I was just mentioning, I remember looking at there's like calendars and dates and charts. And I remember seeing one that said like the halving is 180 days away. And I was like, woo. And now some of them are saying like 40 something days. And I was like, holy guacamole, like time is moving really, really fast. So I expect that to continue happening over the, we're going to be getting a lot more bullish news, as it were, pertaining to a lot of different coins over the course of the next few weeks. And then we have the halving, and then it's go time. Yeah. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.